Today we're going to talk about thought chunking. Thought chunking is really important. Good public speakers know how to group words together, how to emphasize words, how to pace what they're saying in order to vary their speech, but also to really engage with their audience.
Right.
Can you think of any good speakers who really use good pausing and pacing?
I think Obama is a great speaker.
Okay. Why? What makes him a good speaker?
He takes that moment to let people hear what he's saying, and in a way he lets people get a glimpse of himself to understand what he's trying to say.
What is he doing while people are getting a glimpse, or what's happening?
He's organizing his thoughts. He's giving him time to come up with the next statement.
One of the things he does is he groups his words together. He pauses, he emphasizes. And this is really important for public speakers like politicians, entertainers, but it's also important for people like you and me. A teacher needs to present to her students in a way that's clear, not speaking too quickly, not speaking too slowly. There's a balance, and that's what you need to learn. Okay? And in the workplace, when you're talking, whether you're in a meeting or whether you're, just talking to a colleague, you need to really know how to thought chunk. Right? So our subject today is thought chunking, and we have 3 really clear objectives here. Once we understand what thought chunking is, our first objective is to know how do we identify where the pause is. Okay? The second objective is to clarify the key words. If I'm going to pause, I need to emphasize a word for you to think about. Otherwise, why am I pausing? In other words, certain words have more value than other words. And if we're going to pause, we might as well pause on a word that's going to give you something to think about. So we have to highlight a word so that you can, as the listener, think about that.
Okay.
And finally, pacing our speech. By knowing when to slow down and when to speed up, we create that variation in the thought chunk, which makes it interesting for our listeners. And by the way, thought chunking helps us too. It helps us to think. It gives us time. So we're not always in a rush to just get everything out.
Right.
All right?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So we're going to go over to the board. I want to use a passage to really teach you about thought chunking and really get you to use that. So
Okay.
come on, let's go over here.
Let's go.
Okay, I want you to read this passage to me, but I want you to just kind of read it in a dull and uninteresting way. Can you do that for me?
Sure. Today I'd like to talk to you about simplicity. Let go of unnecessary things and people. Am I asking you to stop having fun? No. My question to you, will you simplify your life now or later?
Okay, that was boring.
Right.
Thank you. Excellent. So I want to show you what thought chunking is. Okay, I'm going to take the first 2 sentences, I'm going to break them down into chunks. I'm going to highlight what the key word is, and I'm going to show you how to pace. And then after that, I'm going to see how you do with the rest of the passage, okay? So let's have a look here, okay? Today, I'd like to talk to you about simplicity. How many of you in this room think this matters? So, what are we listening for? We're listening for a pause, like today, I'd like to talk to you about simplicity. Another pause. How many of you in this room, I'm looking around the room, think this matters? So some of this happens with punctuation because there was a comma here after today, but some of it happens without punctuation. It's just a choice that we make when we speak. So the slash marks here identify the pause. Now I'm going to read it again, but I'm going to give you the pen. I want you to circle which word in each chunk is the key word. Which of those words is higher in pitch, is longer and louder? There's only going to be one in each of these 4 chunks. So listen, today I'd like to talk to you about simplicity. How many of you in this room think this matters? How many of you in this room? Good. Okay. So let me have the pen for a second. So, what did we do? First, we talked about the pause. The slash mark represents the pause. Then you just identified the key word. which we also call a focus word. Now I want you to listen to the pace of my speech, how sometimes I go faster and sometimes I go slower. Listen to this. Today, I'd like to talk to you about simplicity. How many of you in this room think this matters? Now, where did you hear me pace my speech or slow down?
When you started here, your speed was faster.
Okay.
And then when you got to this point, you slowed down.
Okay, good. That's
Pace
right.
yourself.
So I said, how many of you in this room, say that for me. How many of you in this room think this matters? That's called pacing.
Right.
Okay? All right, good. So I'd like you to read from today to the word matters. You read that for us.
Today, I like to talk to you about simplicity. How many of you in this room think this matters?
Right, well, that's day and night. Day and night from the boring, dull version I asked you to read.
Right.
But even still, Juan, different for you, because how many of you in this room think this matters? You're making a choice to speed up and slow down.
Yes.
Okay? So let me have the pen. We have pausing, keywords, and then that last bit that we just did, pacing.
Okay.
Those are the three concepts within thought chunking that we want to make sure we can do. Right? So I'm going to give you the pen. I'm going to read some more. I want you to start by identifying the slash marks, the pauses. Where am I pausing? Okay? All right. Let me see a show of hands. Think about your life. Is there clutter? What are you doing to create long-term happiness? Ask yourself about the things you value. Prioritize them. Let go of unnecessary things and people. Am I asking you to stop having fun? No. But if we voluntarily simplify our lives, we can experience more of what we have. The world is busy enough. Let's create substance. My question to you, will you simplify your life now or later? Good. Excellent. So you got the word but, right? But if we voluntarily simplify our lives, another pause. So again, there's no punctuation here, but I used it in my voice. You heard it.
Yes.
Right, good. So now you have the slash marks. Why don't you take some guesses about where you would want to choose your keywords? Which words? And by the way, did you just notice how when I was speaking, I was pacing differently?
Yes.
Why do you think I was doing that just
To
then?
emphasize the words.
But also because I wasn't sure what I wanted to tell you to do. So it was a technique that I could use because I understand the power of thought chunking.
Okay.
I could slow down so that I could think.
Okay.
Oh, it wasn't, all right. So sometimes you have to do that as a speaker. Okay, good. So which words can you emphasize? Okay.
Think about your life. Is there clutter? What are you doing to create long-term happiness?
More pitch. Happiness, yeah.
Okay. Ask yourself about the things you value.
Value. Let's put the emphasis on value.
Okay. Prioritize them.
Good.
Let go of unnecessary things and people.
Good. And then things too,
Yes.
because that's a chunk. Good.
Am I asking you to stop having fun?
Good.
No. But if we voluntarily simplify our lives,
Okay, good. That's okay. That was a choice. Simplify our lives.
we can experience more of what we have.
Okay, good. I like how you emphasize experience, then more of what we have. And then you
Okay.
kind of slow down, pace
More
yourself.
of what we have, right. The world is busy enough.
Mm-hmm.
The world is busy enough.
The world is busy enough.
Kind of, no.
Yeah, I think the word enough, right?
World is busy,
Busy enough, right? Yeah, and you can keep world. It is an important word as well.
Is busy enough.
Yeah, that works.
Let's create substance.
Mm-hmm.
My question to you,
Yep. My question to you,
will you simplify your life now or later?
okay, what are we going to emphasize here?
Will you simplify your life now
Right.
or later?
but later is its own
Right.
chunk. And even though simplify is an important word, now is the focus. Will you simplify your life now or later?
later.
Because we already used this word simplify before. We highlighted it. Let's highlight a new word,
Got it.
right? Okay, good. So here are some key words. You want to try reading that?
Sure. Today, I'd like to talk to you about simplicity. How many of you in this room think this matters?
Good, nice job.
Let me see a show of hands.
Period, though. Don't make it a question.
Let me
Let me
s-
see a
a
show of hands.
hands.
Try it again.
Let me see a show of hands.
Right, let's choose the focus word. Keep going.
Think about your life. Is there clutter? What are you doing to create long-term happiness?
Good, and you're starting to pace here. Good.
Yes. Ask yourself about the things you value.
But don't emphasize you, just slow
Ask
down.
yourselves about the things you value.
There you go. See, you use your voice on value. Good.
Prioritize them. Let go of unnecessary things and people.
Good.
Am I asking you to stop having fun? No. But if we voluntarily simplify our lives, we can experience more of what we have.
Good, and then you slow down here. Nice pacing.
The world is busy enough. Let's create substance. My question to you, will you simplify your life now or later?
Right. So what does this feel like to you?
Empowered.
Why?
It feels like I'm delivering an actual message.
So if it feels like you're actually delivering a message, does that mean that normally it doesn't feel like you're delivering an actual message?
No, but the message is not being communicated clear,
That's
and I'm not
Okay.
I'm not emphasizing the things that I want them to get or take away from my message.
And so imagine if every time you stood up to give a presentation to your team or to whomever, or any time I stood up to teach a class and to give a lecture or to make a point, imagine if I always felt, wow, I feel empowered because I know how to deliver the message. Even if I don't always know where I'm going, right? I have a technique which says, slow down. Be more emphatic, and I can gather my thoughts. Nobody needs to know that I'm doing that, right? So how are you feeling about all of this?
I have a stronger grasp of what you're trying to tell me as far as emphasizing the words and my rate of speech and, pacing myself. I can see that my message is being delivered in a different way, in a more effective way.
Good. Well, you just demonstrated that, but are you ready to give me a little impromptu presentation so that I can error correct you and
Yes.
help you even more?
I feel confident about it.
Okay, so come on over here. You take the front of the room. I'm going to take a seat here. And I want you to talk to me, okay? And I want you to really use those pauses, use those keywords, vary the pace of your speech by really talking to me, okay? So, because sometimes we get nervous, and thought chunking is going to help you to stay present, to stay with what you're saying, okay? So, do you have a topic?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm going to speak to you about writing documents.
Okay.
It's something that I've been doing for a while now. I was struggling with it at the beginning, but now I'm at a point that I feel comfortable about it, and I can feel like I can give you tips on how to properly write a document.
Okay, good. So I'm going to let you get going, and then at some point I'm going to probably stop you, give you some suggestions, try it this way, try it that way. But why don't you get started, all right? And again, remember, use your energy, use your voice, find the pause, the keywords, the pacing.
Okay. So, Jill, I want to talk to you about writing documents. Writing documents is not as easy as people think. It's about thinking what your goal is going to be after you have accomplished writing that document.
Good, let's back up there. What do you think caused you to trip up there?
I think I was trying to put a word in between accomplish and something else to make it more lengthy.
Okay.
And
and you said to yourself, wait a minute, why am I doing that?
Right.
Something got in your
Something
head that
got
tripped
it,
you.
And yes.
Listen, thought chunking is not just about pausing and keywords and pacing. Thought chunking is about eliminating those fillers, those ums and those ahs. And that's something I didn't say before, but I want you to really keep this in mind, that pause is a pause. It's an empty space.
Okay.
So that even if you're looking to fill that word, I want to put a sophisticated word here, in that silence, you might realize that word didn't come to me, so I better just keep going and not try to get fancy, or whatever your thought process was. Okay? So try that again and use that empty space rather than trying to fill it up with ums and so forth.
Jill, I'm going to speak to you about writing documents. Writing documents is
You were aware.
yes, I'm thinking about those silences.
And what happened just then?
And then I wanted to fill it with something else. Nothing came. I'd rather have the silence, be comfortable with my audience, and then keep going with whatever comes next.
And I saw you notice that you said a little
Right.
instead. Now this time, next time you notice something, okay, you don't have to stop. Because even if you do say and you notice it, the next time you say you will notice it, but you don't have to draw attention to it.
Right.
Okay? So let's just take it one step further. Okay? All right.
So, I'm going to be speaking to you about writing documents. There is a lot to be considered when writing documents, and one of the main things that you want to start with is the goal of your document. Who is the intended target or population or audience that are going to read your document? You have to realize whether it's a document that is being informative or for historical purposes.
Good. Let's stop for a moment. I feel your confidence. Okay? I hear your words, your pauses. So you are definitely appearing to have that empowerment that you were talking about.
Right.
Okay? So that's good, Juan. And also your volume is strong. I mean, I think that you're doing a very good job here.
Should I go on?
Sure.
Okay. The audience also has to be considered, whether it's going to be an official audience, like a formal audience, or more of an informal audience. If that's the case, then a formal audience will need to hear more technical words, or we need to understand better of the technicalities that took place in the event. And if it's an informal audience, then you might want to be a little more relaxed about the way that you're writing.
Right. Good. And by the way, I will say the same is true of your speech. Just like you're saying about your writing, it's true about your speech. The more formal the audience, the larger the group, the more you thought chunk. Okay? The smaller the audience, the more informal the group. You don't want to be emphatic all the time and overly pause and overly emphasize, right? So there is that to consider as well, right? That you use thought chunking very similarly to the way you use writing.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay? I think you've done great. And what I want to say about thought chunking is that it really allows your personality to come out too, because you get to pick and choose what's important to you as the speaker. Okay? And we've talked about, if you take a look here at the board, we've talked about thought chunking and the key objectives that we went over today, right? Identify where the pause is. Do you feel that you learned how to pause effectively?
Yeah.
Okay. And where do we generally pause?
Right before.
Right after.
Right after the focus word.
That's right, the key words. So our second objective is to clarify what the key words are, and we do that with our voice and with the pause.
Right.
And then finally, what did you learn about pacing today?
It enhances your message.
What is it though? Pacing. What is pacing?
It's slowing down to make sure, one, you're under control, and two, people take away from your message that important topic or item that you wanted to take away from the delivery.
Good. So thought chunking is good for you as the speaker and for your audience as the listener.
Yeah.
Good. What I saw today was somebody who was really owning what they were learning. And it wasn't just going through the motions. I think that this technique helps you to come out and be more expressive. And I want to wish you the best of luck. I think you're doing a great job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.